Reawakening.
What does a flooded bathroom, an ex-friend, and dogs have in common? Well, they're all part of the dream that we look at in this month's episode of Reawakening, the Dream Interpretation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Mann, and once more we check in with dream interpreter and spiritual life coach Yvonne Ryba, who shares with us a dream of a client of hers who is recently remarried, who has had some issues with disappointments and disloyalty from an ex-friend in the past. These themes revisit her in the shape of a flooded bathroom and other figures that appear within the dream. Yvonne says the dream, in essence, is an opportunity for the dreamer to identify areas of her life, people, issues that need cleansing from the dreamer's subconscious and her conscious life. So let's check in with Yvonne and get the 411. Hello again, Yvonne. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Chris. And how are you?
I'm hanging in there, Yvonne.
Yes.
We all have these upheavals in life.
We sure do.
That reminds me, a couple of months ago, you dissected a dream of a client of yours who was getting ready to get married, which is a big change in life.
Yes.
And I think you said you had another dream from her post-wedding, right?
Yes, I did.
Oh, let's hear this one.
Yes, and that one was 10 months after she got married.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a very long dream, but you know how dreams are. They're like onions.
Right, layers.
You take the skin, and the next thing you know, there's more skin underneath and so on, layers and layers.
Yes.
So here we are. I'm going to read the dream through, then I'll go back like normal and do an interpretation of each bit.
Wonderful.
So the dreamer was in a big house, and this house belonged to a friend that she loved and adored. And the friend was 30 years older than her, and she had given her a cowboy hat. In real life, she had given her this hat. I mean, this was something that stuck in her mind, and she loved this woman. Now, she didn't say if this woman is still alive or not, but she obviously thought of her very, very fondly. She found this woman on the floor as the house had flooded, and she was down on the floor, and I helped her up. And then there were 3 dogs that came up, and they cried and laid by me. And then suddenly she was in a huge bathroom, and this ex-friend was there, and all the towels were lying in the shower. They were all very wet, and she said, I had to remove them. And it seemed like that this house was in a subdivision, and she gives the address, which was where she lived in her first marriage. And it flooded. Okay, so we've got a lot of floods in this dream.
Lots of floods.
Yeah, lots of floods, lots of water, and so on. So here's what I said. So go back and I'll do it a little bit at a time.
Yes.
So she said, I was in a big house. Matter of fact, it was a house that she had lived in years before. And this friend, this very wonderful friend of hers, who she loved and adores, was 30 years older and had given her a cowboy hat. This woman was on the floor. The house had flooded and she was laying there. Now, this old woman is a symbol for the wise old woman who comes in our dreams to help us. Now, the wise old woman has been around as long as we've been dreaming. It comes in different shapes, of course. Sometimes it can be very modern. It can be sometimes a famous film star that you look up to. It can be your mother. It can be your grandmother, your great-grandmother. It can be a good old friend like this one is. It might be some mysterious figure that just shows up. But they come to help and advise you. And you've had advice from in the past. You trust them, okay?
Like a mentor.
That's right. And here this woman, this friend, was lying on the floor, and the house was flooded, and she had to help her up. Now, house flooding is being overwhelmed by some emotional crisis. Anytime you get flooding or being overwhelmed by water, like you're drowning or something like that, it represents things are getting way out of hand. You can't handle it, okay?
Right.
Water is an incredible thing. As we know, we've just had floods here in Texas and other parts of the country. And when things flood, you really are at the mercy of the water.
You are.
You can't do anything about it. You just have to go along with where it takes you. This house flooding meant that at some point my dreamer was feeling a similar emotion to when she was getting divorced, which was when her older friend helped her a lot, and that this time that she was going through reminded her of that. Here she is, having a really difficult time, being overwhelmed.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, she'd have to help the old lady up. I'm saying old because my friend is at 50-something, so this old lady's got to be 80.
Okay.
And she'd helped her up, which meant that she wasn't getting the help she needed from the wise old woman. The wise old woman was having a difficult time, or she may not have been there. So my dreamer is saying, I wished I had my friend back. She would help me.
Right.
Then there were 3 dogs. The dreamer is very fond of animals, horses, dogs, cats, the whole thing. There were 3 dogs that came up and cried and laid by me. Okay, so dogs, again, are a universal symbol, unless you had a bad experience with a dog at some point. Usually, dogs are loyal, faithful friends.
Yeah, they are that.
Yeah, and they represent that in your dream. So something in your life at the moment is represented by these dogs. These dogs are faithful and loving, and they help you, all right? They're there supporting her and so on. And to me, that seemed like there are some people in her life who are able to help her. She's
Right.
just probably not too aware of them. But then a subconscious is saying, you have got faithful friends. And here they are, like the dogs. Now, the dogs seem to be trying to make me happy, she says, playfully biting me and such. Now, when a dog sort of wants to play, it kind of pushes you around a little bit, trying to get you to go somewhere, take it out for a walk or whatever, nips you a little bit. It's in a dream that would be somebody's trying to get your attention here.
Right.
A friend is trying to make you push yourself forward a bit and get on with it. And she is perhaps not aware of that, but here they are trying to help. So that's that part. And then she suddenly finds herself in this huge bathroom, and she was with a friend, an ex-friend, she calls her. And the ex-friend, obviously, that's very important, had left all the towels in the shower, and they were all very wet. And she had to pick them up and remove them. And it felt like this house was in a subdivision where she'd lived when she was married before. And it had flooded as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So I asked her, I said, so was this ex-friend in your life at the time when you were having this divorce? And yes, she was. And it seemed to me that she was an ex-friend, so she's not in her life at the moment, so why did she pop up in the dream? And the answer would be, she represents something going on in your life at the moment. Again, in a place that's flooded, like you felt when you were getting divorced, overwhelmed by circumstances and very emotional. Water is emotion. Spiritually, upset, looking for help, seeking help. So something very upsetting going on at the moment. It reminds you a little bit of this ex-friend.
Well, I wonder, Yvonne, the dogs representing loyalty and faith.
Yes.
Obviously, an ex-friend, there's got to be some disloyalty there that caused the separation. Perhaps there was somebody in the dreamer's life while she was having the dream who was behaving in a manner that the ex-friend did, or there was a circumstance that was engendering insecurity in her life, and that's why that ex-friend popped up.
Good point. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right. I tell you what I think. When you get divorced, your friends kind of separate. Some will come with you and some will go with him or her, and you get upset. And somebody you thought was loyal to you turns out to be more on the other side than you thought.
Right.
Or perhaps they had something to do with the divorce in the first place. So, yes, unfaithful, disloyal, that's what's showing up there. So she's feeling somebody is not being loyal to her. And since she has just, at this point, got remarried, that sometimes, especially when you've got grown-up children, can sometimes cause a problem to begin with.
Sure.
Because there is that feeling of, you're not paying attention to us anymore, we're not the most important thing in your life, there's that kind of feeling. So she was feeling emotionally overwhelmed by whatever was going on. But the good news was that she found these towels, although they were wringing wet, and she had to remove them, and so she would. There are things there, you just have to wring them out. You just have to clean up. And that's what bathrooms are for. Bathrooms are a cleansing place that you go to. We wash ourselves, we cleanse our inner being as well. And this says, this is a time to get rid of the disloyal feelings and people that are around you and move on. And just get out of it, let's not hang around here. This is not doing us any good.
And perhaps draw on what the old wise woman had instilled in her.
Yes.
Now she's reaching an age where she's no longer what's considered, quote, young. She's not old, but it's kind of an opportunity to draw on those values that have been passed down.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. What an interesting dream to have the current friend and the past friend and the dogs. I feel like the dogs are there to represent sort of contrast to the ex-friend, you know?
Yes, there are people around you, and they're trying to get your attention by nipping at you, and you should pay attention to them, you know? And then she's thinking, I've got to go and be cleansed off. Well, look at this place. It's flooded as well. But that was reference to her previous divorce. But, you know, there's ways around this.
Right.
You know, you've been through it once. You can do it.
And the dogs perhaps also representing people that are around her now that can help her, that have those qualities.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure the family and friends are there to help. It's just, you can get upset with one person.
Yes.
One person being disloyal and betraying you in some way can really throw you a curve, and you just, what the heck?
Absolutely. Yeah. And then you start to question, are others like this? But I think those dogs are saying, no, there are other people out there that are loyal and good that will be there for you. So another one of those short dreams, but a lot of really powerful symbols. And have you shared this interpretation with her yet? Did she feel encouraged?
I shared it with her a while ago, yes.
Okay.
And since then, I've got some more dreams from her that I have to do.
Well, we'll tackle those.
She is very happy in her new marriage.
Great.
They do a lot of things together. They go to different places, have little adventures, you know, travel around a bit. But she has a job she doesn't like very much. In fact, she doesn't like it at all. And that is coming up in future dreams. So it's like, this is what happens in dreams.
Yeah.
Inner being, subconscious, higher self, whatever you want to call it, will give you help with these symbols. And it uses all these symbols because that's what the subconscious does. It can't speak the conscious language that we speak. It has to use this symbolic language, but it's a spiritual connection as well. I know some psychologists would say, no, the subconscious is part of the being, the ego. But I believe that we are. I'm a science of mind person. I believe we are totally connected to Source, to God. We may not realize it. We may have tuned it out. Or we may have said, you know, I'm not going to listen at the moment. I'm putting the volume down, but it's there. There's nothing you can do about it. You have within you and around you, we have this incredible, you cannot describe it, force that we call God.
Absolutely.
And so this will help you to get through stuff. And we have lost the ability to understand symbols, quite a lot of us, and that's what dream interpretation is about. It's getting back to the universal symbols of water and animals and all the other things that we all have in our lives, even if we don't know it. And then we have our own individual interpretations, too, of things that happen to us in our life, like, you know, our family, our uncles and our aunts, and all the things that have gone on, that we may have had a special place that matters greatly to us, and so on. I once had a dream where I was in Florence in Italy. Well, I've been in Italy twice, but I've never been to Florence. And I woke up and I thought, and this was quite a long dream, and perhaps we'll do it one day. And I thought, well, that's nice. I like Italy. Well, what's that about? And then I thought, and I had an Aunt Florence.
Play on words.
Yes, who was a beautiful person. And you know what? This symbol, really beautiful, old world fashion. You know, she was brought up, you know, in the early part of last century in hard times and so on, but she was a wonderful person. And I recognized, I thought, oh, it's my aunt. You know, how great.
I like it.
Bringing to my life at that time, which was quite a lot. So, interesting, isn't it, how we can use different symbols?
It sure is. And when you stop and you wake up and you go, why did I dream about Florence? Just let that word bounce around in your head for a second, and you'll go, oh, Florence, my aunt. For me, it would probably be Florence Henderson.
Yeah.
The archetypal mother.
It's what it is to you. You have your own individual dictionary. That's what I call it, dream dictionary.
That's right. Yeah. It's always fascinating, and this dreamer has had some vivid dreams with these themes that we all deal with: marriage, divorce, children, family, jobs. So I look forward to hearing what's next from her in particular. We'll talk about one of her other dreams next time, perhaps?
Yeah, we sure will. By then, I should have them interpreted.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you, Yvonne, so much. It's always a pleasure.
No, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
We'll chat in the weeks ahead.
Yes, we will. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Reawakening with Chris Mann and Yvonne Ryba is a Rising Action Media production. Copyright 2016 by Chris Mann.